What's good, guys? It is your girl Brianna Tiny, and I am back with another video. So for today's video, as you can tell from the title, I'm going to be talking about why 2018 was a hot mess for me. Like, it was probably one of my worst years ever. Like, I just wanted that year to end, and thankfully it ended. So to start, if you guys didn't know, I was in school to become a fashion retailer, not even a retailer, but I wanted to be a fashion buyer. And I was in school for fashion merchandising, and I wanted to do fashion merchandising ever since I was a child. I loved, clothes, styling clothes, colors, patterns, all of that stuff. And I also love the business side of it. So that's why I decided that that would be the best career path for me, because if I didn't go to school for fashion, I would not go to school for anything else. Now, battling school and my health was something that I knew how to do until my health started to take a turn and it became out of control to the point where I had to drop out February 6th, 2016. Not 2016, 2018. So almost a year ago. It was really hard for me. I loved school. I loved learning. It gave me a purpose outside of sickle cell to want to do more. And dropping school really hurt me because I felt like, what now? And I was doing YouTube around this time, but I wasn't doing it as much as I am doing it now. I just felt really depressed, and I felt like why me? Like pity on myself. But I knew that's what I had to do. And one of the main reasons why I dropped out of school was because my hemoglobin would not stay above 5. And for the average person, your hemoglobin should be around from 11 to 12. So obviously mine was low, and obviously mine did not have that much oxygen in my blood. And before I had dropped out of school, I was trying to toughen it out. My grandma was staying with me for a few before I had dropped out, and she just noticed that, when I would come back home from classes, I'd be so exhausted that I would sleep until like probably 10 o'clock and have homework due at 11:59, or, walking to classes, I would be so out of breath that when I get to class, I'm literally like it was that bad. Or I have a class and one end of the campus, and I'm at the opposite end, and I have to travel there in 15 minutes, and my heart is racing, I'm nauseous, I threw up a few times on my way to class. That's how bad it was. I was trying to toughen it out just because I did not want to drop out of school. And I spoke to my doctors, and my doctors are just like, you need to give school a break. And I tried to toughen it out. I cried, I prayed so hard to God, asking him, please let me be able to finish school. And I just could not. I physically could not continue, going to class and doing homework and coming home trying to eat. And I get home at 3:45 and I'm sleeping till 8-9 o'clock, pretty much 10. Wake up still exhausted, having to do homework, get on the computer, falling asleep. It was just a lot going on, and I really care about my grades. And the semester before that, I got all A's and 1B, and I was just like, I'd rather just drop out than to try to make it. And it affects my GPA, because I am a scholar student, and I did not want that to happen. So I had to just do what I had to do, and that's when I dropped out of school. So that was one of the big reasons why 2018 was a hard year for me. And then after that, my mom, she's a traveling therapist, and she pretty much goes to different states to work, to make money. And in March, she was in Utah, Salt Lake City to be exact. And I decided that I wanted to go visit her. I wasn't doing anything else. I wanted to see my mom. So I spoke to the doctor about it because we had a concern that the altitude would be too high, and he said that no more than 5,000. I'm sorry guys, I'm getting a little teary-eyed over school, but he said no more than 5,000 feet above sea level, and Utah was just barely cutting it. I think it was like 4,400, and so she booked the flight and I left. And if you haven't seen that video, I have a full vlog on my experience going to Utah. It'll be in one of these corners. But if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. It really, really shows what I went through when I went to Utah. So when I went there, when I got off at Denver, and if you don't know, Denver has a high altitude. Like I probably think it's like maybe 5,006, close to 6. I was only going to be in Denver for about 30 minutes because I had a layover to go to Salt Lake City. So when I got off of Denver, I had like a like a terrible migraine, like pounding. And then as soon as I got on the airplane, you know, I took a nap, woke up Utah. When I got off at Utah, I was so nauseous and dizzy and just like I felt terrible. So I was already on the way to the hospital to see my mom because I had to like get the keys to like go to the house or whatever. And when I saw her, she knew I wasn't feeling well. Like I just had to sit down. I was so nauseous. My stomach was hurting. I was in so much pain. She took me straight to the emergency room. When I got to the emergency room, they treated me. I thought I could be able to go home, but I couldn't. So I ended up staying in Utah, not in Utah, but at that hospital in Utah for about a week and a half. And then I got out. I was a little bit better. I had to be on oxygen because the altitude was high, that my O2 stats were in the low 80s. So that's how bad it was. We did not know that it was going to be this bad. You know, you live and you learn, but I would never go to Utah, Salt Lake City unless I'm cured, because that is just how bad it was. And then me and my mom, after I got out of the hospital, we started to do more stuff. I got a little bit better, and then we went to the hot spring. If you know what a hot spring is, you know. If you're not, look it up, because I can't even try to explain it. But I went to a hot spring, but the temperature outside was like in the 30 degrees, but the hot springs were so hot like you could barely feel it. So I felt like every time I would go in and come out, go and come out, that affected me to go into crisis. So I went back into the crisis, went back into the hospital, and I was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks. So by the time I had gotten out the hospital, my mom's contract finished, and we had to travel all the way from Salt Lake City, Utah, which is pretty much on the West Coast, to North Carolina on the East Coast. So that was my first time traveling across the country, and it was probably one of the worst experiences. Number 3, the worst experience I have ever been through. So as soon as I got out of the hospital, I spent like maybe a day and a half in Salt Lake City. My mom had to bring oxygen tanks with us on the road because the altitude was so high. I also have a video on that, my journey from Utah to North Carolina. It should be in one of these corners. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. It shows what I went through on my way there. So on our way back to North Carolina, we had to pass through Wyoming, and Wyoming is really, really high. Wyoming is like 6,000 feet. So my sats started to drop really, really low. Like I was close to in the high 70s, and we only had one oxygen tank, and we were trying to spare like how much oxygen we used. We had to like calculate, you know, if I use this much, it should last me until I get to Nebraska. Like literally, guys, that's what we had to do just so that I wouldn't go back to the hospital, just to get me back to the East Coast. That's how bad the altitude it was for me. It may not be as bad for some sicklers, but it was bad for me because I already have a low hemoglobin, which means my body doesn't carry that much oxygen, which means it's harder for me to be able to hold oxygen in my body. So there you go. So honestly, guys, like that was a journey. When I said that was a journey, that was a journey. My legs started to hurt. It was a long trip. It took 2.5 days to get from Utah to North Carolina, and I drove some of the way just to distract me from the pain. And as soon as I got back to North Carolina, I had to go in the hospital, and I was in the hospital for almost 3 weeks. So, as you can see, from January to pretty much April, middle of April, it was rough, guys. It was so rough. And then after that, I was in and out of the hospital up until like August, September, and then I didn't enroll back in school because I was still so sick. Like it was really, really bad, guys. And my health was like at probably the worst it has ever been, just because I wasn't getting blood anymore. I didn't know my condition could be so bad without the blood. The blood was kind of masking the condition, as my doctor was saying. I cannot have blood because I have a whole bunch of antibodies, and my body's very sensitive. It does not like foreign objects or foreign anything. So whenever I get blood, I get really bad reactions to it. I get itchy. I get hives. It takes a very long time to find my blood. It takes at least 3 or 4 days, maybe like 2 to 4 days to find my blood, and my blood has to come from the American Red Cross. So make sure you guys, please, we need more African American donors to donate blood. If you are African American watching this video, please guys, go donate. A lot of sickness need African American blood for them to survive. So please go out and donate. Don't only donate your blood, donate your bone marrow, so that somebody out there can be cured from this disease. I unfortunately do not have a donor, so that was also a bummer. For 2018, I went to see the what are they called? The bone marrow specialist, and the bone marrow specialist took blood and he put it in the database, and I don't have a match. So that was one of the biggest bummers of 2018 also. So that's already 4 things like already that I've gone through, and I wish I had a daughter so bad. Like, I really want to be cured from this disease, just because it's really taking my life away. And I'm so limited on what I could do besides YouTube. And that's why I'm putting all my energy and effort into YouTube and having a voice for the sickle cell community. I feel like, there's not enough people out there advocating for this disease, or getting people out there to register for, the Be the Match or American Red Cross. We need more people to, raise awareness for this disease. You get what I'm saying? There's a whole bunch of advocates for cystic fibrosis, but there's none for, there's barely any for sickle cell. So we need to come together and advocate for this disease and educate our peers on what this disease is and how bad it can be, and have better medicines for this disease. There's only two approved FDA drugs for sickle cell. Only 2. And sickle cell has been around since the 18th century, the beginning of the 18th century. Why are there only 2 drugs? So you get what I'm saying? We need to be the voice. And if I have to start by using YouTube, and if this is what God wants me to do by keeping me out of school and keeping me out of work, then that's what I'm going to do. And I really, really hope you guys, hear what I'm saying and understand that this disease is real. So those are some of the reasons why, 2018 was so hard for me. There's also one more reason that I cannot explain. It was one of those reasons that, it was so personal that, affected me a lot. I think I became really depressed over this, and that reason was one of the reasons why I came into 2019 alone, okay? So I'm not going to talk about that reason, but just know it was pretty bad. So I'm going to end this video here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you would like to see from me, Brianna with Tiny. And with that, I'll see you next time.